Okay, so I have to ask, how many people are running an iOS device with iOS 11? Most of you. Okay, let me ask it the other way around. How many have not updated to iOS 11? One, okay. Two.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it, okay, good.
Well, he just got an iPhone, right?
You just got an iPhone?
Yes,
You got it. You got it. And you, what
I just got a
version?
new iPad, so I'm not mad.
So you must have it, yes, you do. Okay.
Question is whether it updates or whether it should.
Yeah, you should absolutely update every time they come out with an update, maybe a week, sometimes
Because in
every
December,
6.
people were saying they couldn't get any phone calls anymore.
No, that's all gone. You can update, you should update,
Okay.
yes. And I think it's iOS, I'll show you real quick where that is. Get back on here. This thing keeps on knocking me off. Okay, so where you go is the settings, which is down here on the bottom. I'm gonna keep making this thing bigger.
I'll do it.
Okay. You go to settings, which I'm in right now. You go to software updates, which is the second one down. And it'll tell you software's up to date and I'm on 11.2.2, which just came out this week.
Oh, okay.
And that was a security update for all the security stuff that they've been talking about. Okay? Now, if you don't do the update, what'll happen is, if you don't know that there's an update, that's the place to check. But if you haven't done it in a week or so, what will happen is eventually, in the settings area, there will be a little dot there, and or a little mark. And when you see that mark, you go into settings, and it'll take you to the update area, and you'll see another mark, and you'll know that you've got to do one. They put that there if you haven't done the update in, what, about a week or 10 days, George? Okay? Okay, so I agreed to go over a couple things before we open this up to question and answers, and one of the things that I wanted to go over is a video on how to hard reset the iPhone 10. How many people have the iPhone 10? Okay, good, okay. How many people have a iPhone 8 or 8 Plus? Okay, good, okay. So this is for the iPhone 10 only on how to reset it. It's a little bit different, and so I thought I'd show that. And I'm showing this guy's because he made a mistake, and it's a common mistake.
This is a Verizon model iPhone X. It's a white one, but it really doesn't matter. So I made a video when I first got my iPhone 7 about how to hard restart it, and then I made another video to follow up on that about the iPhone 8. So basically, it used to just be all you had to do was hold the sleep wake button and the home button at the same time. But now there's more of a process to it. So first of all, there's a volume up button, a volume down button, and then there's this sleep wake button. You have to push this volume up first, then volume down, and then you have to hold sleep wake until it turns off and restarts. So let's watch this. I'm gonna do it as a 1, 2, 3. 1, oh
That's
shit.
the mistake.
1, 2, 3, and then hold. This will cause it to shut off completely, and this will cause it to restart and reboot. Okay? So now we just wait, and it should reboot to the Apple logo. There you go, Apple logo. So this is the iPhone X. I'm still waiting for my iPhone X's to get to me. I have to go by the post office and actually pick them up because you have to actually sign for them.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to show. And because it's real easy to make that mistake that he made if you have an iPhone X and you want to, and a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm just going to hit the up volume or the volume button and hold the other one in. and shut the phone off, or the app will eventually appear, and that's really not the hard reset. You really have to do the up, down, real fast, and then hold the other one in until the app will appear, and that'll do the hard reset. It doesn't change any of your settings or anything, but it does a lot of internal resetting that'll many times correct problems you might be having.
Should we do that once in a while?
I do it once in a while just because I'm sort of fanatic about it, but if you're not having problems, I would say no, you don't really need to do that. But every once in a while, like I was working the other day, and something happened in Safari and it wasn't responding properly. And so I just reset the thing and it came right up. So it does work. George, can I have your attention for a second?
Yeah. Making
Would
me
you,
go out of
would you,
order.
would you mind giving me a paper towel leading to death?
Oh, he's bleeding to death.
I hit my elbow. And all this excitement of missing the announcements.
Mitch,
Yes.
for those devices that haven't updated to iPhone 10, is there any reason not to update it? I've heard some people said they had problems updating.
No, no, there's no reason why. And the next thing I'm going to go over is, well, what are the real differences between the iPhone 8, the 8 Plus, and the 10? And I've got a cheat sheet I got to pull up for that. Okay, so,
I have a question.
yes,
Ziggy, is there a big difference between the iPhones before 6, 6S to the 8? Because you are talking 8 and 10, most people don't have the 8 or 10, so
there's a big difference in the speed of the device. There's a big difference in the cameras. They've all been improved significantly. And if you go to the 10, there are other significant differences that I'll point out. Yeah, I think that'll do it. I just need really one. Call the blood bank and tell them to plug them in. Okay, good.
I have a Band-Aid. I was gonna say I have a Band-Aid.
Oh,
Do we have a nurse?
He's gonna get it.
They might need mouth to mouth.
EMS, which one would push?
I think I'm gonna be,
Okay.
I'll throw that out.
thank you.
Universal precaution.
I think I'll be okay.
I always think.
You might need a few stitches.
If I didn't take so many aspirins, I wouldn't bleed so much.
I always supposed to take one plus, so it's pretty damage.
Okay. So where was I? Where were we?
About the
Differences.
Well, the differences, yes.
I was just going to say, the older the phone, sometimes you cannot update it to a different operating system. If you-
Well, that's very true. Like I have a friend, it's the same with the iPad. I have a friend that when they go to that software update, it says that he's on 10 point something, and that's because, and it says you're on the current version, and that's because it's an older iPad. So you can actually Google which devices, which iPhone and iPad devices can be updated to iOS 11, and they'll give you a whole list. I actually had that at one time, but I don't have it handy.
I have a 5, and I was able to upgrade to 11.
Okay, you had the 5, okay.
And it didn't slow down the phone, so I don't
Okay.
have a problem.
And of course, there's the battery thing now. If you have a 6 or older, they'll replace your battery for $29. Of course, they've gotten all kind of flack for throttling these things back so that they would keep on running properly, which is very controversial. Yes.
I suggest you not be in a hurry to get your battery changed. I've tried it verbally online with help or going to the store, and it's just jammed up. So you just better wait 2 or 3 weeks
Yeah.
before the end of the month.
Yeah, actually, I had to make an appointment for an iMac the other day, just yesterday, and I had a lot of trouble getting an appointment. they were all full this week and next week, this week at Coconut Point and here. And I have some connections, so I was able to make an appointment next week. So, yeah, it is, and that's what they said when I talked to them. They said, we're just jammed with these battery situations.
Mitch?
So, but wait. Yes.
Yeah, what you do, if you go to the Apple Store, at least the Waterside one, probably the same at Coconut Point, you line up in the line of people waiting to sign up for a new battery. You have to have your phone with you because they'll look at it and they take your name and email and all that, and they'll order a battery. They'll send you an email when it's ready, and then you have 5 days to come in and get your battery. And they said it takes about an hour and a half. So go in before lunch and at Waterside, have lunch. That's the deal. But there's a long line of people the last couple of days. But eventually, they'll take your information.
Okay.
Why do we always wind up serving the machines that were meant to serve us?
I don't know the answer to that. Okay, so I want to talk about the differences in the what makes the iPhone 10 what I'm going to call a little bit more special. And the first thing is the screen that goes from, there's no bezel on each side, and there's none at the top or the bottom other than this little cutout area. And that little cutout area has about 5 or 6 different sensors and cameras and things that make the Face ID possible. And so the one thing is the bigger screen. It's not quite as big as the 8 Plus or the 7 Plus, but it's bigger than the 8 or a 7. I would call it a significant amount. I noticed a real difference in terms of the size. The second thing that makes it different is in fact the Face ID, which again is this part right up here at the top. Is where that Face ID stuff is. The third thing that's unique to this one is it has a dual image stabilization cameras. On the Plus, the one camera has an image stabilization, the second one does not, the Zoom one does not. On the iPhone 10, they both have image stabilization, and it's at a 2.4 rather than a 2.8 in terms of light coming in, so a little bit more of an improvement there. It also is unique in that it has the AR kit, which is Apple's augmented reality engine built in, and that allows you to do the emojis that you can, it'll actually imitate your face when you send a text message. Has everybody seen that? You know what that is? Okay, good. And the other big change is the front-facing camera, which allows you to do, just take better selfies because of the Face ID and the fact that the camera is looking at your face in 1,000 different ways, or however many ways that is. And so it does do a better job in your selfie or your front-facing camera applications. And those would be the key differences. The 2.4 that I mentioned and the 2.8, that's the f settings, the aperture settings. It's a 2.4 on the iPhone 10. It's a 2.8 on the Plus. This one cost about $200 to $250 more than the other one. To me, it was well worth it because it's a device that I'll probably want to keep mine for a year, but most people would keep for several years. What do you think, George? well worth the extra money?
I think so.
Yeah. Yes.
Is there still the double, like when you opened it, face recognition, there was first, this picture of a woman, and then you had to do another step to come to your, like, I don't know, one time it was discussed here that there were, these double steps to open it.
Well, there's a double step in the sense that when you open it,
Yeah.
I mean, there's my lock screen, which is my wife. And when it unlocks, I do have to take and scroll up from the bottom to get to the page I was at. So,
Not we do one and then we have all the apps?
Yes.
That is not with this one?
that is not with this one. No, it is not. You don't just hit the Touch ID and go to the home page. You actually, there's a bar at the bottom that is the new sort of home page thing, and you have to just slide up. I can tell you that, I'd be interested in knowing this, but I missed the home button for less than an hour when I got this phone. What would you say, George?
About a week.
About a week. How about some of the other people?
I disagree, it's a pain in the neck swiping it all the time.
Okay,
And
okay,
every time you touch the screen, something comes up that you didn't want, and, it's just
okay.
crazy.
I don't have those problems. How about others?
Well, he's a big Microsoft.
I just want to ask a question. You said something costs $240 more than something else, and
If you want this, if you want the iPhone 10 versus the 8 Plus,
okay.
it's about $250 more for this one.
Okay, so that's a weird comparison.
Yes.
So they're not two versions of the iPhone 10, one with a different quality camera?
No.
No, okay, that's what I was a bit confused.
Comes in
Thank
two
you.
sizes, 64-bit memory and 256.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the only one with face recognition.
Yes, this is the only one with face
The 10 is the first one
recognition.
with
Yes,
face,
okay, I
yeah.
just was-
The 8 not.
Wasn't following.
And you don't like the face recognition. Anybody else doesn't like the face recognition?
Well, the face recognition is okay, I just get sick and tired of swiping.
Okay, swiping, you don't like to swipe. Carl?
If you have the face recognition, can you set it up for two people, like if
No.
my wife wants to use my
No.
phone?
No, you cannot. Your wife can no longer use your phone, sorry. No, it has a code. It has the backup code, just like the fingerprint. So if you look at it, sometimes I'm over here and I look at mine and it doesn't register, a keyboard will come up. Or if I handed my phone to you and you looked at it, a keyboard would come up. And you have to put in, then you put in the code. Okay?
Mitch,
Yes, Carl.
Jim, I'm better looking.
Yes.
Sorry, Carl.
He's a bolder one.
That's true. You also have to enter the code when you turn the phone on. If you've turned it off, you have to enter the code.
Yeah, and that's the same with the,
Hard reset.
that's the same with the hard reset, that's the same if you power it down completely, and that's the same with the fingerprint ID. If you turn off the phone completely, you have to put the code back in.
I've only had it for about 3 or 4 days, and I like the facial recognition part, but I also recognize that I'm swiping a lot more than I used to.
Yeah, I'm swiping a lot more. I just wish that when it recognized my face, it just came up to the home page.
That's what I would like to. I wonder if that's a setting.
No, it is not. It is not. A lot of people have complained about that, so maybe when iOS 12 comes out, or maybe in some update, they'll change that or make it an option. But a lot of people don't like that. So there's one more. So those are the sort of physical things that are different. Okay, the screen is an OLED, which is a much higher resolution, much more brilliant colors. At the same time, the downside of that screen is that it has a break ratio that's higher than any other iPhone out there. So you better have a case on it. And it costs, I don't know, I've seen quotes anywhere from $300 or $400 to get that screen replaced. So it's a good phone to have Apple Care on, because then you're it's got the improved camera, a little bit better camera, and the other things that I mentioned. Now, there are other physical differences in terms of the operation, and I want to go over a quick video to show those. So they get back in here.
Do you have any inventory to sell while you're up there?
I don't have any inventory right now. They cut me off of the supply chain. Okay, so we'll go into
If they get there, then I'll be selling the ones that I'm going to sell on eBay, and the rest of them I keep.
okay, there we go. Now, let me go into this one right here. This is actually an Apple video. I looked at several of these trying to figure out, okay, what's the difference between an iPhone 8 and an 8 Plus and a 10? And this one was a really good one in showing the actual operating differences, like the swiping and so on. So I'm going to play it for just a minute.
Hi, I'm here to show you the new iPhone 10. I'll walk you through some new gestures, Face ID, Animojis, and some other pretty cool things that are really easy to use. Let's jump right in. You've probably noticed that there's no home button. That's because we've made it even easier to get around your phone. Now, wherever you are, you can just swipe up to go home. If you want to see all the apps you have open, swipe from the bottom and pause. Then swipe to move between your apps. You can even swipe along the bottom of an app to go from one to another. To get to the control center, simply swipe down from the top right. While you're in Control Center, you can press firmly using 3D Touch to do things like turn up the sound or brighten the screen. To dismiss Control Center, just swipe up. Want to see all of your notifications in one place? Swipe down from the top, and there they are. Swipe right to see your widgets, or left to quickly access your camera. You can also get to the camera or the flashlight just by pressing firmly on these buttons. Want to talk to Siri? You can still say, "Hey Siri," but now you can also press and hold the side button to talk to Siri anytime. And to turn your iPhone off, press and hold the side button and either volume button, then swipe. Alright, so what is Face ID? All the things you used to do with Touch ID, you can now do with Face ID. Your face is your password. It's simple to set up. Just rotate your head around like this. Now your iPhone will recognize you whenever you look at it, whether you're indoors, outdoors, or even in total darkness. But what if you change up your look? No problem. It can recognize you with a new hairstyle, a beard, different makeup, glasses, even in many types of sunglasses. To unlock your iPhone 10, just look at it, and you don't have to hold it up to your face. With a simple glance, your iPhone can recognize you. See how the lock icon opens? From here, you can just swipe up with your thumb to go home. And no need to wait for it to unlock. You can glance and swipe all in one motion. When notifications pop up, they stay private until you look. One glance and there they are. To make secure purchases with Apple Pay, double-click the side button, glance at your iPhone to authenticate, and hold your iPhone near the terminal to complete your purchase. Easy, right? Finally, and most importantly, all of your face data is securely stored right on your iPhone. It's never backed up to iCloud or any server. Sure, you've used emojis, but you've never actually been one until now. With Animojis, you can become one of 12 characters, like a monkey, a cat, or this guy. The TrueDepth camera maps over 50 muscles in your face in real time to capture your every expression. To send an Animoji, just start a conversation in Messages. Then open the Animoji app and choose which one you want to be. Hit record. Hey Mom, how do I look? And press stop when you're done. If you change your mind, you can switch characters. Once you've found the perfect one, just tap send. You can even make an Animoji a sticker. Just strike a pose, touch, and hold the Animoji. Then drag it anywhere inside the conversation. On iPhone 10, both the front and rear-facing cameras have portrait mode. So now, even your selfies will look more amazing. You can also add some new studio lighting effects with portrait lighting. It's simple to do. When you're in portrait mode, select to choose between 5 different lighting effects. Then shoot. You can also edit the lighting effect afterwards. Go to the portrait and select Edit. Then choose the lighting effect you want. Creating a whole new look is that easy. These are just some of the great new features on iPhone 10. Thanks for watching.
Okay, yes.
Mine did not recognize me in the dark, the Face ID.
Sometimes mine does, and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, every night I get up in the middle of the night. I don't know why, but it has something to do with the restroom. And I grab my phone and I'll go like this, and it'll. Sometimes it unlocks and sometimes it doesn't. But if it doesn't, I just put the code in.
I know, I'm just saying, they made a claim that isn't true.
Well, it pretty much, it recognizes me, and I don't want to say it's pitch black, but it's pretty dark. There might be some ambient light, like we've got some shutters open and there's some pool lights on outside, so maybe that's enough coming in that it lights me up enough. Yeah, but I have had it not recognize me as well in the dark. Yes.
It's using infrared, Mitch.
Huh?
It's using infrared anyway, that's not using visible light.
It's an infrared, yeah. There's an infrared sensor in there, so it should recognize you. Yeah, Jim?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I thought that, I haven't really tested it out, but I thought Apple touted the fact that it was even in the dark.
Yeah, they do tout it, and I have had some difficulty with mine in the dark, but most of the time it does work. Anybody else have
I've never had
comments?
a problem, and I probably use it about 3 or 4 times every night in the dark. Never had a miss, never had a miss.
Okay. Good. Where are you holding it? If you hold it right here, it can be problematic. It's best to hold it out here. Yeah, okay. Anything else on that? Okay. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to go over, oh, we're still on here, good, is I wanted to go over, taking a screenshot and doing some annotation to it. So to do a screenshot on, I'm going to use the iPad, which is the home button in the bottom right hand one here, so we'll do a screenshot of this. And it shows up right over here, and if I touch that, it'll bring it up. And notice when it brings it brings up the drawing stuff at the bottom. So I can pick.
Did you tell them I did the screenshot?
Yes, I did. Home button in the side bottom.
We didn't hear it.
Oh, okay. I'll do it again.
And also on iPhone?
On the iPhone, it is the side button and the top volume. Yeah.
Which iPad are you talking about?
This is the 10.
No.
10.5.
The iPad, which,
10.5.
no, which iPad?
The 10.5 iPad. 10.5 iPad Pro.
iPad Pro?
Yes.
Okay.
But I believe it's the same on all of them. It's the one single button.
On the top?
Well, on mine it's on the bottom.
Okay, that's what's confusing to people, depending upon what orientation
Yeah,
you're in. Okay.
now it's on top.
The on-off button and the home button.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
so be
on-off
on the
button
side or the
and
top?
the home button,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
I use the iPhone 7 Plus.
Okay, so on yours, it would be the home button and the side, yes. So when this comes up, you select one, so I've selected that one, and I'll select the yellow, and then you can just draw on there, okay? And if I want to erase it, I hit the eraser and erase it, okay? But the point is that you can draw on this thing. So I can go here, and I can go there, and I can say, okay, now I'm done. And I can save it as a photo, or I can delete it. But I can also go over here and I can say, okay, I'm going to send this, and I'll send this to George. Okay, and I can just say, look at this, or whatever. Okay, so that's pretty nice. Now, I'm going to cancel that out, done, and I'm going to just delete this. Now, the question comes up, so I'm going to do the screenshot again. I'm going to hold the home button and the on-off button. Okay? And so I'll do another screenshot. And there it is. And then somebody just called me. Oh, it was my wife, because that would make me get my attention. And notice that it disappeared. And you think, oh, I wanted to annotate that. How do you do it now? Well, what you do is you go to your photos, which I'm going to do, it's in the bottom down here, photos, and I go to my photos, and here it is. It's the last one I took, right there. Okay, and I pull that up, and they sort of hide it here, just like, where is this thing? So you hit edit at the top right. Okay? And when you hit edit at the top right, you go down here to these three little dots, and there it is. And you hit markup. And now the markup stuff comes in again. So it's really hidden. I mean, I don't do this very often, so I hadn't done it in a month or so, and so before the meeting I'm thinking, well, I knew it was there, where was it? And then I stumble on it. Yes, sir?
Yeah, Mitch, on the lower right, there's a plus sign, so there's a lot of other things that you can do besides the drawing there.
Yeah.
You can put text in, for example.
You mean here?
No, at the last screen.
Now go back to where you were.
Here? More?
No.
Go to
Yeah,
markup.
press the three dot again.
Yeah.
Go back into the screen there where you edit.
Markup.
Now on the bottom right, you see the little plus sign?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's some other things that you can do there. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I'd forgotten about that. Yes?
Mitch, I go to look something up on the iPhone, on the internet, and I have a list of things. I select one, I look at it. How do I go back to look at the other list? I mean, this another item on the list. I never know how to go backwards once you've opened some of the choices on the internet.
Okay, so, well, let's do that. Let's go to the internet. So we'll go to the internet and we'll go to, I'm on this page, so let's just say I wanted to go to Apple. Oops. Rid of that. I'll go to Apple. Okay. Now, I'm on the Apple page, and I say, well, okay, now I want to go back to the other page. I hit that back arrow. Did you see that? Up at the left-hand corner, there's an arrow there. So now...
But I never see that on my iPhone.
Oh, it's at the bottom. It's not at the top, it's at the bottom. It's at the bottom. You want me to show it to you on there, or I'll get off of this thing and show you? But it's right on the bottom.
Okay.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
It's so, you know, iOS has come so far, I mean, that there are so many options and so many things that you can do with it. And it's not always clear. And like I said, with me, with the annotation, I knew I could do it if from a photo, and I'd forgotten exactly where to do it. and I fooled around in a few minutes and was able to bring it back up on how to do it. But a great resource for any of this stuff is Google. If you Google, how do I annotate a photo in iOS 11, I'm sure you would get a host of things to view.
Mitch, can
Yeah.
you show us those other options that other gentleman was talking about?
Yeah, let's go back to
Because there's
this.
a lot of things you can do besides draw.
Sure. Okay, so you can do text. So if you're doing text, let me go here. And I'm going to hit on text, and then you hit on text here, and you pick the kind you want, and then I believe,
That's your home screen.
oh yeah, you hit text, and the kind you want, and then you hit where you want it. You can move this around. Then you would go in here and hit the text and text.
You have to tap inside, try tapping it. Tap inside. Double tap.
Yeah, I did. Coming up. We can do it. Oh, there it is. It's wanting to put it there.
Oh, it always shows up in the middle.
It always shows up in the middle. Yeah. And then it would come up and you would start typing. Okay, so that's the text. And we can see if that eraser erases the text.
You have to delete it, I think.
Delete, yep. Same, probably the same here. No? I don't know how to get rid of that one, do you, Charlie?
The box ring,
Yeah.
tap on the box and see if it gives you little dots on it.
No, it's not. Ah, there we go. It did.
What you did?
I kept on tapping on it.
You have to tap on the edge sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now the other one is.
Questions?
Yes, yes.
Well, when you finish with the 10 phone, would you go back to the 8 phone? There were a number of us that raised our hand, and what's new on the 8 phone? Help us out.
Okay, good. I'll get back to that in just a minute. So then there's a signature. I have 2 or 3 or 4 of them there that you could use. And you can add more. Then there's a magnifier, and the magnifier you can move around, so, and then go like that. And so if you want to emphasize something, you would do that, and then when you would hit done, it would look like that, and I could send that to George. You know, because he sent me a text back and said, I don't see where it says YouTube's. So I would send him this and say, here it is. Okay? Any more questions on those other options? Yes, Marilyn?
Mitch, before you go to iPhone 8, I want to follow up on Bill's question.
Yeah.
On the iPad, the back arrow is on the top, the share icon is on the top, the bookmarks and read is on the top,
Yes.
and the list of pages is on the top.
Right.
But on the phone, all 4 of those are on the bottom.
Yes.
So it's not just the arrows, but also the share and all the other ones too.
Yes, exactly. Now, there's also something else, well, let me get out of here. Okay. And I want to select this one. And delete it. Okay. Okay. Now, the iPhone 8, the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus are, form-wise, they're basically the same, very similar form factor to the 6 and the 6 Plus. There was a 6 Plus, but certainly the 6S and the 6S Plus. Same size factor, same screen resolution on the device. However, the cameras are improved. They improve the cameras every year, so the cameras are improved. It was a reasonably good improvement this year on both of them. On the 7, when they went to the 7, they gave you image stabilization on the one camera on the 7. And of course, they carried that forward on the 8. The 8 has image stabilization, but only one camera. Yes?
On the 6S, it also has, 6S Plus, it has image stabilization.
On the 6S Plus, but not the 6S.
Correct.
Yeah. They never had it on the smaller one. I always had the smaller one, and then when they finally gave you the image stabilization, I was very happy with it. So, those are some of the differences. The processor is much faster on the 8. It's the same processor as the 10. Am I missing anything else? Yes.
Yeah, Mitch, I got a question on the 6. To delete an app,
Yeah.
okay? You hold the button down and Riley started doing her dance.
Yeah.
What happens when you don't have the X that shows up on there to delete it?
It's an Apple app. It's an Apple app that you
No,
can't.
it's, I know that about the Apple app. It's just to say I downloaded some silly app, and I said, oh, I didn't want this, and I want to delete it. As it wiggles, there's no plus sign, there's no minus sign, there's nothing. There's no way to delete it.
I don't have an answer for that.
I was working with somebody's iPad the other day, and I don't know what version it was, but the X didn't appear until you actually held the button longer. You put your finger on the app icon a little longer, and then the X finally appeared. So I don't know if that would work, but it never
I
happened.
think that might work, because it happened to me one time, and I know somehow I got the X to appear.
But it took a lot longer than it did on my iPad
Yeah.
to appear, but it eventually did appear.
Yeah. And the other thing to do is, when you have an issue like that, is to do the hard reset. Sometimes that'll correct it.
Done that, nothing.
Okay. I would try holding it on there longer.
Done that, and it's still.
Then I would wait. It's just on a 6?
6.
So it's out of warranty, but I would go to the Apple store at some time when they're not crowded with battery replacements and ask them, because I Googled it too. You could just Google, why doesn't an X appear to delete?
Okay,
One more thing that you might be able to do is, if you have a computer, you hook your phone up to iTunes.
Yes.
And then you would show your apps, and then you usually have the opportunity to remove the app through iTunes.
But I think they've taken that away.
They've taken that away on the new.
They've taken that away on the new iTunes.
Okay.
Yes.
Another thing, where is the app? Is it in its regular place, or is it in the purchased list?
It's in a regular place.
Okay, because if it's in the purchase list, I was working with this lady again because she was switching iPads, and she went to the purchase list with all her apps, and the old apps that were no longer viable on her operating system were still there, and she couldn't get rid of them, but it had a grayed out download sign on it. So it would be an app that you could not use again, but it was still on your purchase list.
No, this would be if you just downloaded any
Right.
app.
But if you go to your purchase list in the App Store, and you see a grayed out down arrow in the little cloud, that's an app that's not going to be working on your iPad or your iPhone.
Actually, they had a big announcement about that and going to
Oh, they did?
iOS
Yeah.
11, they talked about that. And I know I went through and I had maybe a dozen, and I just deleted them. And they were apps that were not going to be updated, for whatever reason the developer had decided not to update them. And so they weren't going to be updated.
But they're still going to be in
work.
your purchase list, I think.
Yes.
That's what I'm
well,
saying, they're still going to be sitting in your purchase list.
I think
If you find a way to get out, let me know.
well, I got them off on my device.
Yes.
Yeah, on the list on my device.
Yeah, but it still look like Maryland said though.
They'll still show in the sky. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
If we're going to upgrade our phones, what would you suggest is the best way? Through our carrier, or Best Buy, or ordering it from Apple?
I always do my own, but if I were going to do one, I've done it both ways, and I prefer doing it through Apple. And the thing of it is that you usually have to end up doing something at home. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to suggest if you're not planning on changing your carrier, that you get it through the carrier. Because you can, like what, the difference between my getting an 8 Plus and my getting an iPhone 10 was the fact that you could finance it for 24 months with no interest. So you could make 24 payments at a carrier. And I wasn't changing from Verizon this time. Last time, I was going to be changing my carrier, so I bought the phone outright. But if you go through the carrier, you can spread it out into 24 months of equal
You
payments.
do that at Apple too.
You can do that okay, fine.
Is that for the 10, or did you say?
It's for any of them. You can do it for Apple now.
Mitch,
Yes.
I just went to my carrier, AT&T,
Yeah.
and I could not buy the phone outright from them. I would have to buy it from Apple. I don't know about the other carriers, but I could buy several different installment plan versions
Yeah.
that Jim was mentioning.
And you might get a price break. I don't think you'll get one on the 10 yet, but Apple does do the installment. I've done it. I used to always buy mine outright. The last 2 years I did the installment. I've been very happy with it. I did it through Apple.
Does it just automatically bill to your credit card?
Automatically bills to your credit card. It's through Citizens Bank, or wherever Citizens Bank is. And they do, I think, a credit check on you, but it's pretty much instantaneous now. And the problem I've had in doing my updates at Apple, it's a little tricky, because usually when the phone comes out of the box, it'll have iOS 11, but it won't have iOS 11.2.2, okay? Now, if you want if you backed up your stuff on 11.2.2, then the first thing you want to do when you turn on that phone in the Apple Store is update the iOS immediately to the latest version, and then bring your data in. And what I've had the problem with is they haven't done that, and then I've had problems in getting my data on until I came home and screwed around with it a little bit. But they'll help you with that. But that's the one bugaboo, is that coming out of the box, rarely is the iOS up to date.
So if your backups are on iTunes and not in the cloud, is there a problem?
There's not a problem as long as it's I think if it's an older, it comes over. So in other words, if you backed up iOS 11 on your device, and then you got a new phone and you did an update to your phone and did iOS 11.2, and then you plugged it into your Mac and you want to bring your data in, I believe it'll come in from an older version. But if it's the opposite, it won't. So, in other words, if you backed up your data and you had 11.2, okay, and you went to the store and got a new phone and it had 11, and you plugged it in, it would just say this is not compatible with the software that you backed up.
I think iTunes lets you update it. When you plug your phone into iTunes, I think it lets you update it to the next version. It'll tell you this is not updated.
Well, it'll tell you it's not updated, but until it is updated, you can go backwards. And the reason I know you can go backwards is if somebody has like an iPhone 4, which there are some people here who have iPhone 4s or 5s, and they haven't updated, they have an iOS 10 on there. If they go get a new phone, they can restore all their data that they have on that old phone, even though it's a different iOS, a lower iOS, because it's the highest that that phone can take. But it won't do it the opposite way.
When you back up, what's the best way, when you're switching from an old phone to a new phone, or an old iPad to a new iPad, what's the best way to keep your folders? Or is that possible anymore?
No, I keep my folders all the time, and I can tell you, I think the cloud backups have become very reliable in restoring everything. However, a year or two ago, what I used to do, and what I still do, is I do an encrypted backup on my computer, on iTunes, and that's where I restore from. Because it used to be, like the watch data would not come over unless you did an encrypted backup on your computer. But I think that and I can't be positive, but I think they've corrected that to now you can, doesn't matter which one you use. I know my son got a new iPhone, and he had backed up his old one, his 6, on the cloud, and he restored it from the cloud, and it restored everything. It restored all his videos, it restored all his...
Did he restore his folders, is my question.
Yes, it restored his folders as well.
Because
That
I
used to be a problem.
just did this lady's backup from the iCloud, and it did not restore her folders.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and so that's why I was just wondering if that was an anomaly, or if I'd like to know what other people...
I just did it, I just restored the phone in the past 2 days, and it's got all my folders.
From iCloud or iTunes?
From iCloud.
Okay.
Are you talking from iTunes, are you saying like playlists?
No,
The folders.
the folders.
Just the folders, where you've gathered several
Yes.
apps in one spot?
Yes.
Yeah, it restored all the folders.
Okay.
And what did you back up? What old phone did you have that you backed up?
A 6S.
A 6S.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
The last time I backed up an iPad, or restored an iPad from an encrypted data on my Mac and iTunes, I didn't get any of my ebooks, iBooks, whatever. Things I had, like a recipe or something that I had downloaded and put in there, none of that stuff was there, and I lost it all.
I think isn't that a check that you do when you're syncing? Like when you sync the phone to iTunes, don't you have to check that it syncs the iBooks?
I don't know that. But I know all my iBooks came over. Now, I didn't have a bunch of recipes for anything,
But
but
I mean, I had like PDFs from a genealogy group or something, none of that came across.
all mine came through completely. And all my notes, I've got like 200 notes that all come through.
If you go to the app and iTunes store in settings, or if you go to the purchased, I just did it, and I downloaded all her iBooks and everything. So
I know the only problem that I have had, and it doesn't matter what kind of backup you do, is I lost all my custom ringtones. And they were not custom ringtones that I bought from Apple. They were custom ringtones that I made years ago. And I found out how to go in and restore those. How?
Yeah, that happened to me. How did you get them back?
Well, let me just go in here and look at that, because I was just looking at it today. Okay, I'm going to read off what I did, because I made a note of it. I had quite a few custom ringtones, not purchased, that I accumulated over the years. They would not move over from iTunes 12.7, which is the version I had when I got the phone, from a backup of my new phone. If you have this problem, here's the solution. You use the Finder when iTunes Media Library, where iTunes Media Library is stored. So you have to go into iPhone preferences or iTunes preferences and find out where your library is stored, and then you use the Finder in that storage area and you search for ringtones or tones. You highlight all of the ones that you want and you drag them to your desktop. Okay? You connect your new phone to the computer and you run iTunes and you and select tunes on my device. That's all on the side. You then drag all the items that you have on the desktop into that area, and they will populate, and then you sync.
Put that on the discussion group.
I'll put it on the discussion group. I actually have a picture of it too, so I'll be glad to do that. But it's not an easy thing, and I had to do a lot of Googling to figure out how to do it. And I went down a couple of Google rabbit holes that didn't help me before I found a good answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll post that on how to restore custom iTunes, custom ringtones on the board later today. Okay, we've got time for a couple more. Yes?
I just had one more question. A funny thing happened to me on my way to Seattle. I actually got my first new iPhone in 5 years. Of course, I made the mistake of getting 7 Plus. And then I got a Defender, out-of-box Defender case.
Yes.
And so that I'm on Southwest and I'm trying to get onto their Wi-Fi and it gave me all kinds of messages. And then I went back to my screen to sign in with my passcode and it wouldn't take my passcode. It kept shaking its head. And then it said, try back in 15 minutes. And for 2 hours I tried. I finally got on, and then I turned it off and I didn't use it until I got to Seattle. Can you imagine what it's like not having a phone when you get, and I was wondering if they had any, old boxes. But when I went to the Apple store, which was next door to where I was staying, they said that they thought the OtterBox Defender may have made it so that the numbers or whatever were a little bit off kilter, so when I was typing it in, it thought it was something else. Is that possible? He said, buy a new Otter case and a new, tempered glass for $100 from us.
Yeah.
I got this from Best Buy for $30 on that Black Friday. So
Have you had a problem with it since?
Well, I got rid of the passcode because, which is not good.
But
I don't want to be locked out of my new iPhone.
Oh, you're talking about the actual the passcode to get into the phone?
Yeah,
I have never heard of that before.
well, he showed, it was shaking his head, and I tried for 2 hours, and it said, try back in 15 minutes, and it's not good when you don't think you got a phone.
No, and you're saying you couldn't get in with your passcode?
For 2 hours.
And what about the fingerprint?
I don't use the fingerprint because my fingerprints are wiped out, so it doesn't recognize when I'm at the airport.
You know what? You can do, I've heard this, I haven't tried it. It'll take a
a thumb or something.
It'll take a knuckle print.
Oh, a knuckle print.
Yeah, so try that.
Well, for now, I'm defending. So you haven't heard that like this would.
I have
put
not
things off
heard that
kilter?
at all. I've never heard of that. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I will tell you, my husband has one of those, and I have a terrible time typing on it.
On the OtterBox?
Yes.
Yeah,
It has a very thick cover on the screen. And that could be maybe it loosens a little bit inside the frame, I don't know, but I've never had a problem with it, but I have had a problem scrolling and trying to type in stuff.
Yeah, I'm finding I can't, I've always used, I wouldn't have ever gotten an iPhone without a stylus, but now with a bigger one, I can use my fingers. It doesn't like my stylus, it likes my fingers.
you might want to go to Best Buy and get a different type of heavier case rather than an OtterBox.
Yeah, because I've had a purple otter since I started. Okay,
One of the new people.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't remember what my version of my iPad, it's not a 10 that I just purchased. But how do you delete the iBooks that you don't want to read anymore? I tried tapping, I know I did it one time, and now I can't remember, like, why didn't I delete it?
I don't know how to delete. Do you know how to delete iBooks?
I do, let me think about it.
Because mine always show that they're up in the cloud, and I want them to go away.
I know, so I'm like, I already read it, I don't want all that, the memory kept. One book is really long.
And there was another one in the back there. Somebody have a question?
Carl has a.
Carl, what was the last one?
Lost my thought.
No, go ahead. Carl, go ahead. Scared Carl.
Marilyn, did you come up with it?
No, my email address is on there, just email me, and when I figure it out, I'll send you the answer.
Oh, okay, I remember.
Yes, Carl.
What case is everybody recommending right now to the OtterBox for protection of your phone?
What case am I recommending?
Anybody, or everybody.
Well, I have like the Apple case, the one that's open on the bottom. And that's plenty enough protection for me. I question getting maybe a heavier one because of this breaks a lot easier, but I didn't. I've got the Apple Care, and I like a thinner case. The one I have for my wife, and I bought these on Amazon, so it doesn't have the Apple on the back. The one I have for my wife is a clear one, and it does have the protection at the bottom, and it's a little more beefy, but not anything near an OtterBox. I've never had an OtterBox.
I've always had an OtterBox, but
like my son has an OtterBox, but he works on roofs, and he's clumsy anyhow, so he drops his phone all the time. Now, I just haven't had that problem. But having said that, I'll go out here and I tell you a story just happened the other day. I went to the show. I had to go by myself for an afternoon one. It was one my wife didn't want to go to. And for some reason, they did not turn up the lights when the show was over. And I had my phone in my pocket, and it had fallen out. Okay? So I walk out of the show, and I'm not out of the show 25 feet, and I'm grabbing my phone, and it's not there. And I knew where it was. It was back in there. But I didn't know where it was. So I go back in, I got my watch, and if you have your watch, you can do this. Find my iPhone, and it'll ding. So I'm dinging, and it's dark in there, and I'm looking around, and the show floors are filthy, and I'm looking around, and there was a guy that was still sitting in there. I don't know why he was still sitting in there. He turned his flashlight on his phone and handed it to me, and there it was sitting right there. I grabbed it and left. Oh no, I knew it was there. I could hear him pinging. I just couldn't see it.
That was a nice story.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for coming.